Okay, not the kind of video I was hoping to make to start the academic year. A little bit about my summer. I actually spent a big chunk of my summer in Vienna. I was playing with the Ames Festival Orchestra, and I had a great time. I'm hoping to go back the next summer. Actually, so the Ames Festival Orchestra, they are based in the beautiful city of Graz in Austria, and they, after 50 something years of their organization, they finally were able to have a concert at the famous Musikverein Wien in Vienna, the Golden Hall, and many of us, including myself, had our very first experience playing in that beautiful hall, and it was really, really a special experience. So about halfway through the trip, I think around, no more, actually around the fifth week, actually closer to the end, I sprained my wrist, my bow arm wrist. It was not because of playing, I don't think. Actually, I didn't remember anything traumatic happening, any sudden falls or anything. I suspect it happened due to the fact that I am right-handed primarily, and because I also did a lot of traveling on the weekends in between the concerts, and the many times I had to put my bag and my case over my shoulder. Since I'm right-handed, whenever I put my case on my back, I wear it like a backpack. I always use this arm and I swing the first strap on this shoulder, always on this shoulder, never on the other one. And on top of that, my tote bag, my pink tote bag, which I take with me pretty much everywhere, I always carry on the shoulder as well. So I suspect doing that so many times has finally taken its toll on my wrist. So I have a mild sprain. I can still play. There are certain things that are painful to do, such as any form of extension. So I cannot extend very far, maybe just a little bit. More importantly, it actually hurts whenever I actually engage this finger, at least like a tiny bit. Yeah, even a tiny bit. I feel right in there. I'm suspecting that there is a scapholunate injury in addition to the classic tendonitis that, of course, the ultrasound showed, but that's very common situation. I had it on my other wrist last year, right around here where the two extensors, where they intersect. So that's happening too, but I do suspect there are mild ligament tears as well. So I took this as an opportunity. I can take this off and play without it, but to be safe, I'm gonna limit how much my wrist can move. And I actually took this as an opportunity to do some exploration of what is possible with a slightly more limited wrist motion, because I do tend to extend quite a bit at the tip of the bow, and this is where upper half, that's where I'm having the most trouble. And I want to share this video with you, first of all, to talk about two things actually. One, the first thing is, of course, if anybody is dealing with something similar or had something in the past and had to make some modifications, can't take an extended break from playing, I'm sharing what I am experimenting with. The second thing, and this is I think more important, is that as I was practicing long tones, I'm practicing long tones in the upper half. I am experimenting with how much my thumb is engaged, and I feel like over the years that's something I have not paid enough attention to. And this is kind of forcing me to really kind of focus on that, because the main challenge is to sustain. To sustain in the upper half without doing this and without doing that. Okay, so there are two things that can help to do it, in addition to what many of us are taught, adding pressure and extending the wrist down. So there are two things that I'm focused on. One of them is the thumb. So the thumb can, first role it has is it literally holds the bow from below, right? So technically in the upper half, if I'm near the tip, I should be able to make a sound with just these two fingers. And I'm not putting any pressure on my index finger right now. The other thing is that the thumb, it is counter pressure. It always counterweighs this finger. So instead of pushing down with this finger, I'm actually, I do have to be careful that I don't overdo this because I don't want to hurt my thumb as well, is to actually push up a little bit more with the thumb. And I'm also trying this week to, instead of putting my thumb here, and I used to play like this actually before, and I used to have my thumb here on the leather, and then at some point I moved it back there, but I think I'm gonna move it back to having a little bit away from the frog, so it's not touching this part, because now I'll be able to, my thumb's gonna have more mobility, it's gonna be able to move around more, and here I can actually do this. And also the other thing the thumb can do is rotate the stick. Okay, so instead of rotating the stick, I'll show it with this hand, instead of rotating the stick by doing this, which I think if I was doing that, which is possible, that could have also contributed to this injury, it's better to do it with the thumb. Okay, so I hope this is something that can take away. So point being, when I get to the tip, I'd like to go from tilted hair to more flattened hair near the tip to sustain the tone. And that's because, of course, the bow, as we know, it's lighter here, so, you know, the more hair helps, and at the same time it also helps to create a little bit more of that figure 8 motion to make the turnaround. So I'm doing this all mostly with my thumb. In addition to that, I noticed that it helps me to engage my ring finger a little bit more than usual. And it's almost like getting into the Russian bow hold. Not quite, but having the elbow just a little bit higher and engaging the upper arm, having the upper arm a little bit higher gives that little bit more leverage that I am lacking here, because it hurts to do any kind of pressure with the index finger. So the combination of these two things, give it a try. Coming from above, so really free in over here, okay? So my fingers almost look like they're overly pronated, right? And at the same time engaging the thumb and seeing what's possible. Of course, getting back to the lower half, what I'm happy is that my fingers, they're still able to do their usual thing, maybe not as pronounced as visually, not as visual. Great. I was gonna not edit this video, but there's the motorcycle. Maybe I won't cut this out. I didn't want to make any cuts in this one because I'm lazy to do any editing. Yeah, so it's less pronounced engaging this, and it brought another point to me, and that is, how much do we really need to move these fingers? There's something to connect here. Is my wrist completely immobile? Not quite. It's doing a little bit of this inside there. Okay. But the other thing I always like to do at the front is actually anticipate with my elbow. I spoke about this in my other videos. To make a smoother bow change at the frog is that the elbow will come down just a tiny bit. Right here. Just enough for the fingers to kind of follow through. The fingers end up kind of being the last thing to do anything. So I'm not doing any of this situation. I'm trying to keep my wrist as neutral as possible. So this is basically the range of motion my wrist is doing right now. so that's what I've been working on. Let me know what you think. And the other thing, of course, that I still haven't figured out, the other thing that's a big problem is anything that I could categorize as explosive motions. Well, we don't want to do that anyway, but anything like anything that's a fast martelé, but if it starts too strong, I have to be really careful, because it's easy to accidentally do it this way, okay? And that would put the strain that we don't want here. Same thing with collé. So collé here, I'm just using my natural arm weight to catch the string. Here I have to consider what I said earlier about how to catch the string here without doing this so much. So again, thinking about my upper arm and my thumb and trying to feel the string and the bow hair making contact and really creating some friction. So right now my index finger, I'm not actively pushing with it, it's just resting, and actually it's much deeper than normal. So right, I'll come up close so you can see it's much deeper than normal. And here it's easy to actually, if you have passive fingers, you can go from this overly kind of almost Russian bow hold position at the tip, right? And when you get to the frog, check this out. Now the bow is almost even on this side. So the range of the bow stick to the hand, if you can get it to freely move between the joints, there's no one place where the bow stick lies. It depends on what you're doing, depends on where you are on the bow. It's gonna range anywhere between here and here. They're like the two extremes. And these, the ring finger and the thumb, pinky's just there for balance really. These three, the back fingers, they really help to make this happen. See? Alright, that's all I got for you today. Hopefully this will heal within a month. That's my suspicion. It's going to take about a month. Hopefully I'm right. Hopefully it's not a whole year, which is what I had to deal with on this one last year. Now, I didn't talk about last year's injury, which again wasn't plane related, but it also dealt with extension problems. But luckily, you know, on the left side we don't play like this, right? So it didn't really bother me with playing. But it's different on the bow hand, and being dominant on the right hand, it's a little bit different. So we'll see how things go. So let me know what kind of topics you would like to discuss. What are you up to? What are you working on? Anything new in your lives? Put it down in the comments below. I'll see you next time. Happy practicing.